Hello and welcome to MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things magic. In our video for today, we are going to update and upgrade our Lazav Dimir Mastermind EDH deck, a deck that currently resides in the Burgeoning Commander catalog. Greetings and salutations to the MTGBC. You are the MTG Burgeoning community. Welcome to another installment of the Up and Up series. And today it's Lazav Dimir Mastermind's turn to be updated and upgraded. A few points of business before we get to the pleasure of revising a deck. In the Burgeoning Commander catalog, there are various Commander decks that can be viewed on a playlist on our channel. In addition to that, you can click the link in the description below to tappedout.net, where you can see the current deck list of this build as it stands right now. So we have a handful of cards going into the 99 for the purposes of strengthening this Voltron-esque Commander deck. And the first card is going to be Strength Testing Hammer. One of the gems of the Infinity set. We went from block to box to set. It's just a set. Strength Testing Hammer is one of the eternally legal cards. Our words are just all over the place. See, similar to Lazav, I'm shape-shifting all over the place from someone who can cogently communicate to someone could not. All right, moving forward with the main reason why you're here today. All right, Strength Testing Hammer. It's an equipment for 1 and an equip cost of 3. And whenever we equip creature attacks, we're going to roll a 6-sided die. That creature will get +X/+O till end of turn, where X is the result. Then if it has the greatest power or is tied for the greatest power among creatures on the battlefield, we get to draw a card. Now, we are playing a Lazav Voltron deck, so more often than not, we should have the most powerful creature on the battlefield when it comes to power level. I mean, in a Voltron build, generally your commander is going to be the one with the greatest power. So Strength Testing Hammer is going to reward us for that feat by allowing us to draw a card. Additionally, the temporary +1 to +6 power boost is also going to allow us to, let's face it, knock out our opponents with lethal commander damage much more quickly than it would otherwise. Strength Testing Hammer is going to be one of those equipments that slowly should creep into all Voltron decks out there. Eventually, when the MTG Magic community of communities, that's in the redundancy department of redundancy, either catch up to the strength of that card or stop neglecting the cards from Infinity. With Strength Testing Hammer going in, coming out is going to be Commander Sphere. This is one of the classic Commander quote-unquote staples. Artifact for 3, tap for 1 mana of any color of our commander's color identity, and we can sacrifice it to draw a card. The thought process here is that by replacing Commander Sphere with Strength Testing Hammer, if we were to draw multiple cards over a series of turns by attacking with Lazav while it's equipped to it, then it will outperform what Commander Sphere could do by the purposes of giving us more lands in our hand to play, allowing us not to miss a land drop, which in some ways is commiserative of, playing a mana rock on an early turn. You don't want to miss those land drops also, or playing the mana rock just helps to make up for missing one of those lands. With Strength Testing Hammer giving us more cards in our hand, we will be able to outpace the draw card that Commander Sphere gives us by allowing us to sacrifice it. Overall, throughout the entirety of a game, it is my contention that Strength Testing Hammer will be more valuable to what we want to do in this deck than Commander Sphere. All right, continuing to hammer home the theme of this Voltron deck for Lazav, we are going to include yet another equipment. This time, it's Resurrection Orb. An equipment for 2 with an equip cost of 4 is going to give Lazav lifelink, or of course the equipped creature, if for some reason Lazav is otherwise indisposed. Whenever an equipped creature dies, we will return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control, which will be our control, of course, at the beginning of the next end step. Now, Lazav has hexproof and always will. That doesn't mean that he's not susceptible to mass removal spells. Wrath of God, Damnation, all kinds of sorcery speed removal spells that could off Lazav and most likely every other creature on the battlefield. By having Resurrection Orb in the 99 and hopefully attached to Lazav, we will be able to bypass him going to the command zone by returning him to our side of the battlefield at the beginning of the end step, and then that way we don't have to worry about accumulating more and more commander attacks. Once our opponents see that we're sitting down with a Lazav deck, we most likely are going to become target number one. Any way that we can keep Lazav on our side of the battlefield and not ping-ponging back and forth between it and the command zone, well, we will welcome those options with arms wide open. Resurrection Orb provides that ability for us. With that going in, coming out is going to be Enter the God Eternals. Now, this is one of those cards that was included as one of the last cards to comprise the 99, while this deck made its appearance on a Build Around series way back in the day. So for the purposes of this replacement, what we're doing here is we're kind of concentrating more on what Lazav can do versus what any peripheral effects we have in the 99. Replacing Enter the God Eternals is not that difficult because, let's face it, the 4 damage to target creature, it could kill the creature we want, or it may not. Gaining the 4 life, well, let's be honest, that's attacking one time with Lazav by having Resurrection Orb equipped to it. So we're not really worried about that. The target player milling the top 4 cards of their library, okay, I mean, that's a nice peripheral bonus. But we have so many other effects and abilities in this deck that allow for mass milling that eventually it would be beneficial that we replace all targeted milling with all opponents milling. That's the eventual goal, and hopefully piece by piece we will get there. And then lastly, the Amass 4. Sure, we get a zombie army token with 4+1/+1 counters on it, but let's face it, we're in blue-black. We are in the colors of disruption and removal, so having the 4/4 is not really going to be felt as a big loss. I do contend that Resurrection Orb will help the overall deck much more than keeping Enter the God Eternals. All right, we've got one more spell and then an upgrade to the land base, and then we are calling it quits here in this episode of the Up and Up series. The next card going in, we're staying with artifacts, but this time we're shifting our gears from equipment to a creature, and it's not just a creature, it is a juggernaut. We have Tiresian Mindbreaker. It's a 6/4 for 7 generic mana, and whenever it attacks, defending player mills half their library, rounded up. Okay, let's just focus on that ability very quickly. Milling an entire opponent's library just by milling half of an opponent's library just by turning Tiresian Mindbreaker sideways is a ridiculously powerful ability. That is Traumatize on a stick. Actually, that's better than Traumatize because I think Traumatize is round down, where this is a round up ability. And let's not overlook the last wall of text present here on this artifact creature. It also has the Unearth ability. 1 and 3 blue, and then we can return this card from our graveyard to the battlefield with haste, which means we can turn it sideways and mill another half of a library rounded up. And again, of course, because of the Unearth, we have to exile it at the beginning of the next end step. And we only unearth as a sorcery, of course, but still, we bring this from our graveyard onto the battlefield during our pre-combat main phase. We declare it as an attacker. We have perhaps Lazav attacking too, and then half of a library rounded up is getting milled. We have our pick of what creature we can shapeshift Lazav into. Tiresian Mindbreaker is going to be a very, very fun addition to the 99 of this build, and I am looking forward to seeing it in action. With it going in, it's going to replace Mirko Vosk, Mind Drinker. Here we have a 2/4 flyer for 3 in Dimir colors. So we are taking out a creature with a mana value of 5 and replacing it with a mana value of 7, and then later in the game, 1 of 4 through the Unearth ability. Now, why this swap makes sense to me is that Teresian Mindbreaker's ability is an attack trigger. It does not have to deal combat damage to mill half of a library. For Mirko Vosk, not only does it have to go through the attack phase, but it has to deal combat damage to a player. And once that happens, that player is going to reveal cards from the top of their library until they reveal just 4 lands, and then all of those cards are going to go into the graveyard. When paired with Lazav, Teresian Mindbreaker is so much more powerful than Mirko Vosk. We have to actually strike for combat damage to trigger Mirko's ability, where we only have to turn Teresian Mindbreaker sideways. The evasion of flying helps to keep Mirko alive, but Teresian Mindbreaker has a toughness of 4, which is as beefy as Mirko Vosk's minus the evasion. This is going to be a very, very, very powerful swap because of what we can do just by turning it sideways. We don't even have to connect with combat damage, and we're already milling half of a library. Oh, baby. All right, last swap here. We got 1 land coming out quickly, 1 land going in. The land coming out is Fetid Pools, and it's going to give way and yield to Shipwreck Marsh. Why we're doing this is that Fetid Pools will always enter the battlefield tapped. It gives us a blue or a black mana. Yeah, the cycling is there, but honestly, I want the lands on the battlefield because, as I stated earlier, Lazav is a lightning rod for attention, and we're going to need that mana to cast him repeatedly from the command zone. Additionally, Shipwreck Marsh is only going to come into play tapped if we control 1 or 2 lands. 2 or more other lands, right. So as long as we have 2 or more lands on our side of the battlefield, Shipwreck Marsh will come into play untapped, which allows us to maintain tempo by having all mana available to us as soon as it enters the battlefield, something that Fetid Pools just can't do. So Shipwreck Marsh is in, and Fetid Pools, you are out. And there you have it, MTG BC. Lazav, Dimir Mastermind has been updated and upgraded. Let me know your thoughts about these revisions in the comment section below. This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things Magic.